What have you been avoiding? What have you been avoiding? That is the key question for this video, and that's the key question that I have been wrestling with for the past several months. And really, I've been wrestling with that question subconsciously in my head since I came out here to the wonderful state of Illinois, just outside of St. Louis. I came out here about 10 months ago. I moved here from Michigan. Back when I lived in Michigan, I went through this kind of 2.5-year time period of being in a rut. We're all familiar with the rut phase. The rut phase actually has enveloped a large majority of the human population, especially here in America. And there's a lot of people that don't know they're in the rut phase. And such is the case with myself. Back in Michigan, that 2.5-year time period before I moved out here, I was in this rut phase and did not know it fully at the time until I experienced this new phase out here. And, you know, when you experience a new phase, then you have something to compare the old phase to. And then you're blessed with the hindsight to be able to diagnose and evaluate kind of that period of life. And so that is kind of what we'll be talking about today. But the key question, what have you been avoiding? So back when I was living in Michigan, you know, going through this rut phase. First of all, what is the rut phase? The rut phase is it's a very hard existence. It's a very hard existence because you are just very focused on the trivialities of life, whether that be drama, politics, what he said, what she said, right? The bills that can't be paid, everything that you can see, right? That's where your focus is. And I want to put emphasis on what you can see, because if you've studied any spirituality, there's a lot of talk in spirituality, and even outside of that, about how the physical existence is a very, very small, like we're talking 0.00 many zero part of all of existence. As we know, all of existence is actually just energy. We're energy living out this physical 3D experience. So when you're in a rut, in that rut phase, you are just very focused on what you can see. You're very focused on there also could be a lot of focus on the outward presentation, right? How you look to other people and making sure that other people are happy and satisfied with the way you're living your life, never making yourself happy or fulfilled. Being in a rut is very much going through the motions. And it's this pattern of existence where you are largely repeating the same thing every day. You're repeating the same thing every day. And it's unfortunate because in today's world, in this rut phase, we have normalized feelings of exhaustion and stress and not having any energy and coming home every day from work and feeling like you have to Netflix and chill. We have normalized, and this is the rut phase. This is the going through the motions phase, right? Where you are living a life very largely using the mind, right? The mind dictates everything over the heart, right? In higher states of existence, in a more flow state of existence, like we see with the greatest athletes in the world, the geniuses like Albert Einstein, the greatest creators, right? The motivational speakers like Tony Robbins, in that higher state of flow and existence, right, where you're connected to a higher purpose, your actions are very largely dictated by the heart and what feels right. And, you know, you have so much clarity in your life and you have this vision for your life and you've internalized it into your subconscious that it dictates everything that you do in your life. Again, this is at the higher state. So compare the higher state that I'm talking about right now to the lower state, which is the rut phase, which again, many of us have experienced time and time again. In this higher state of existence, I would say that is what I have become most familiar with after I have moved out here to the wonderful state of Illinois. So again, before I moved here, I was in Michigan. I was into that rut. When I came out here, it sort of opened up it was this decision. It was a leap of faith that I made. It was a decision that I'm tired of just going in circles, right? I'm tired of thinking I'm making progress and thinking I'm making changes and moving towards something. I'm tired of lying to myself, right? I'm going to step out of this zone of familiarity. I'm going to call it for what it is and move into something uncomfortable, something that shines bright to me. It doesn't look right, but it feels right. And that's the most important thing to pay attention to right now. It feels right. So moving out here to the wonderful state of Illinois, it's great. There's a lot of farmland out here. Moving out here, so this was October of last year. Actually, let me make sure my mic that was kind of loud. Test. Okay, moving out here, October of last year, logically it didn't look like the right decision. It looks like a downgrade compared to, this kind of resume, this invisible resume that I had been building for the years leading up to October of last year. And, I didn't want to work for somebody again. I've always been self-employed, I had been self-employed for a while. Why would I go and work for somebody again, right? But I could not ignore this feeling on the inside that this just feels right. I think this is the right decision. It might not look logically like it's the right decision, but going out here, right out here to St. Louis, it might take a few years being out there to get me to the place where I want to be, right? And that's what's important to understand. There will be opportunities that present themselves to you where it just might not seem logically it feels right, but logically it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll be away from family, or this would not look good on my resume, or blah, 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 blah. But, the universe outside of this physical existence, right, where time does not exist, right, that opportunity may actually bring you to everything that you've ever desired or dreamed. You just can't see it at the start. Or that opportunity, moving into that uncomfortable lifeline, such as moving out here, might be the thing that gets you into this new energetic state, this new state of being, where you're then able to build and accomplish the things that you've always wanted to build and accomplish. Does that make sense? Because back in Michigan, I was living out this lifeline of, again, in the rut phase, where it's very hard to summon the life force and the energy and the passion that is incredibly necessary to build and piece together something that you're proud of and that will resonate with a lot of people. It's very hard to create a life's work, right? It's very hard to write a book or sing a song or make a movie when you're just living a life in that rut phase. It's impossible. It is impossible, right? And again, the unfortunate part is that we've normalized this rut phase. We've normalized feeling exhausted and emotionally, physically, and mentally deprived and disconnected from people and the world around us. We've normalized being unhealthy, right? We're giving people something from a drug from the pharmacy, right? I was thinking about censorship there for a minute. A drug from the pharmacy, right, to fix the symptom, but not the actual cause, right? And so many people are in this rut phase, right? A lot of, if you're in the rut phase, you probably have a lot of people in your life around you that are also in the rut phase. And so given that lens you have of the world, if you lack awareness, greater awareness, you're going to think that that's actually reality, right? That you're supposed to, that's just how life is, right? You become okay with an income that just gets you by. You become okay with subpar energy every day. You become okay with an existence where the people in your life, the people that you care about the most, don't get and experience the best version of yourself. You become okay with creating subpar, mediocre pieces of work, knowing deep down on the inside that you can do and accomplish much better, but you settle for less. And that's the biggest thing with the rut phase, right? You settle for less. An extension of the rut phase is the victim mentality, where, let's say that you're working a corporate job, you're making $150,000 a year, you got a great benefits package, right? The victim, so that's very much going through, I would say largely, a lot of corporate bros are 100% going through the motions, right? And have sacrificed their entire inner life for an external life, right? And to create a life that looks good on paper, income, just everything, kind of create this external reality that looks good, sacrificing the internal. Now, I'm trying to think about the point I'm trying to get back to with that. I'm trying to think where I was going with that. So the problem when you're going through so let me kind of branch off somewhere else, and I might remember where I was going with that. I'm going to take a lot of detours in this video. This video is not scripted. It's not outlined. There was this desire to just want to get everything perfect for this video, studio quality, everything. And I've realized in my life that kind of keeps me in the rut phase. That what I feel there, I've noticed that I need to be quick to move. If I come up with something, I need to just get it out there and not spend weeks and weeks and weeks trying to put together outlines for a video. And that has happened more times than I can count. But going back to our phases here. So the phases we're really dissecting in this video is the rut phase, right? That a majority of humans, especially here in America, are stuck in, going through the motions of life, right? Living a life using the mind, such as the case with the corporate bros, right? You can make a lot of money in the rut phase, right? You can make a lot of money in both phases, right? In both frequencies, the rut phase and the higher purpose. Man, I'm spitting all over here. Just kind of getting excited about this. So you can make a lot of money in both phases, but the problem with the rut phase is, what you're sacrificing is that inner fulfillment and that inner connection, and as a result, the way you show up in the world, it's just not the best version of yourself, and you're not able to think in the way that you could be thinking. You're not able to create in the way that you could be creating, because when you are not being honest with yourself and you're working, when you're telling yourself that that's normal, like the rut life, the motions life is normal, right? When you subscribe to that, the cost is just this this presence that you're able to bring to life. You're kind of living this half-life. You're living a half-life, right? So that was me back in Michigan for 2.5 years. All right, this happened after I sold my business. I sold a business called Pet Canva. Many of y'all know the story. I sold this business 3.5 years ago, which is crazy to think about because it feels like yesterday. Now, after I sold that business, I thought I would easily transition into the next big thing in my life, next big business, right? It'd be like a staircase, right? I built an 8-figure business. Now I'm going to go and build a 10-figure business. That was the plan. And that did not happen. After I sold that business, I tried and everything, nothing worked. Just everything fell through, and I never had the focus and the passion and the life force to adequately put into all these things I've tried for it to actually work. And hindsight is a beautiful thing, because now I can admit that. Now I could see it, and now I can admit that, and now I can learn from it. But it was incredibly hard during that time period, and so I would say a large reason for that is I got addicted to stimulants, right? A substance abuse problem when I was building my the Pet Canva, the 8-figure business that I sold. In this pursuit of wanting to be more productive and get more done and be more, I started taking stimulants, and what started off as with innocent motives developed into this very destructive addiction where over over the course of about 2 years, I just one by one burnt everything in my life to the ground, and I hurt a lot of people. I really did. I hurt a lot of people, and those 2 years were like the dark ages, and there were a lot of times I really felt like I was going to die, where I had go on these benders, right? Again, it just started with productivity motives and turned into full-blown addiction, right? Where I would go on these benders awake for several days, and it would get so bad to where I really felt like I'd be laying in bed, just my heart would be racing so quick, and it'd be so scary. And I really, truly thought I was going to die. And I would be praying to God, God, please, I'm sorry. Please don't let me die. And it was very scary stuff. And so that was over about 2 years. And after I sold the business, for about 7 months thereafter, I was still addicted and still trying to get off the drugs. Eventually I did. 7 months after the business was sold, and I keep saying that for context. It was when I got sober, it was very challenging because I had this mountain, this laundry list of destruction that I had created in my life, and just all this inner turmoil that I had created inside of myself that is so hard to confront once you get into a sober state. Once you get off of addiction, you have to confront a lot of stuff, right? So I had to confront a lot of inner stuff, but also a lot of external stuff, a lot of external destruction that I had created in my life that was starting to come knocking, so what I did, in that sober state, once I got sober, I just shoved it all under the rug. Up until that point, it was already under the rug, and I had a choice. Am I going to now deal with this, or am I going to shove it back under the rug? And I don't think I consciously made the decision to shove it back under the rug. I just did that, and it followed me like a cloud over the next year and a half, 2 years before I moved out here. And so when I think about being in this rut phase, right? This rut phase where I knew I could be more, do more, have more, but just wasn't able to activate it. I would say for me, the reason was, let me see, making sure the mic is still working. Sometimes this mic will go out. I would say the reason for me was escapism and just avoiding all these things, right? Just keeping all this stuff inside of me, right? And as we know, what you avoid, what you resist, and what you don't deal with, let's say it could be stuff from your childhood, or somebody did you dirty, or whatever, right? Let's say just stuff you haven't fully processed, and even external, physical stuff, right? Say from when you were an old person, right? And you did a lot of just not good stuff. And, what you keep down really, really deep and locked away grows and expands and becomes more and more complex. And you start to see it show up in your life in more and more ways. It shows up in your capacity at which you're able to think and solve problems. It shows up in how you give to other people and maybe the work you do day to day. It shows up in the place you live. It shows up in the car you drive. It shows up in how you look, how your face looks, right? How your eyes look. Maybe there were a few deaths in your family, right? Dad died, and then sister died, and you were never able to properly process that. You were never able to properly just disconnect, sit down, sit in solitude, and process that and what those people meant to you. And so that kind of shows up in your life and starts leading you down very destructive paths, right? So I would say in Michigan, it was the mountain of things I didn't want to confront, which kept me in that kind of state of living life through the motions. So up until October of last year, right? October of last year is when I had enough of it, right? It had just shown itself so much in my life. I was getting stomach problems. I was just doing so many things that were out of character for myself because my mind, I had developed this mindset that was very logic-based, very just success is a step-by-step formula, and I was doing less and less things from the heart, right? I had built my 8-figure business from the heart. I would say largely it was very genuine and came from a very centered place, right? Where I felt like there was a sense of calmness, right? And I kind of intuitively knew that it was going to work, right? That business was going to work. But becoming the drug addict removed the passion from inside of me. It removed the life force and the energy. It removed all the crucial things that are so necessary to build something that has resonance and something that deeply fulfills you and fulfills you for your entire life, right? And so October of last year, I was presented with this opportunity to come out here to the outer St. Louis area in the great state of Illinois to work inside of my friend Robert's hat company called Hat Launch. I was making YouTube videos 6 years ago about how to build a business. This was when I had my business at the time. And Robert was one of the guys that was watching my videos on YouTube. And he was trying to build this business right here. It was in his basement at the time. And he was reaching out to me. Let me check this mic. He was reaching out to me saying, "Hey, Chris, I'm trying to build this business. I don't know anything about the marketing and social media side of things. I'd love to get your help on it. If you're able to, can we chat? Can we have a talk?" And I was really deep in the addiction phase. And so I never saw the message. I never checked my messages at the time. That's the worst part about going through the addiction phase. Just to kind of back up for a minute. When I burnt everything in my life to the ground, I didn't even care, right? I did not. It messes up your head so much that all the things that you cared so deeply about and you watered so intentionally and consistently over the years, as these things start to evaporate and burn and crumble to the ground all around you, I did not even care. And I would say that was the hardest pill to swallow when I finally became sober, and why I wanted to escape. Letting that happen. Just letting that happen, and now having to clean it all up, right? It was very hard. And 7 months after selling the business, I had built it with a wonderful business partner named Julia, and I met her at a grocery store. We had such similar mindsets, and we knew that we could be successful in life. And so that's why we built that business, and we became really close friends. And as I kind of came out of that addiction phase, we were just seeing each other less and less and less. And I knew it was because I felt like I betrayed her. I became this shell of a person, and I just hurt so many people around me as a result of that phase. And I'm dealing with, man, how did I let that happen? How could I do this to the people I care about the most? And the times I was seeing Julia, say we would meet up at Mongolian barbecue, right, to get dinner. We do that a lot, and we still kind of did that every now and again. I remember I would just break down crying. We would be at the table, and I would break down crying because all this guilt and all this shame would come up from inside of me. And this happened on multiple occasions. And she eventually had to tell me, "Chris, look, you need to move on from this. You need to get over this." And it was so potent and so powerful, and so you could feel it so much, just how the weight I was feeling when you were around me. She eventually gifted me this book called The Power of Regret to help me navigate that stage. Thankfully, I was able to get out of that, but that's just for a little bit more context. And so the rut phase, I would say that, if you're going through a rut in life, you're going through the motions, and you're floating through life, and you're just feeling exhausted, and you're not able to show up in power every day. Number one, I would ask you, what are you avoiding? Right? Because when you avoid something, it kind of puts you into this limbo phase, right? This limbo phase where you just want to escape every day. You just Netflix and chill, go to work, do your job, get the paycheck, and just basically survive every day, right? Because to do something great in life, to do great things in life, to be connected to a higher purpose is to start the process of confronting the dark stuff inside of yourself. It starts this process, incredibly potent, powerful process of personal development, where you learn so much about yourself. And building a business or building whatever, right? Something that comes from your heart is the only, something connected to a higher purpose is the thing that does that, right? And so to get out of the rut phase, that's why the rut phase is so comfortable, because to get out of the rut phase is to confront these things that have been tucked away. You might not even have consciously tucked them away, right? You just didn't want to deal with it. You just wanted to take care of the obligations, right? Do what you got to do, and maybe hope that it goes away, right? And so, if you're going through a rut in life, life is hard right now. What I would say is you need to give yourself space. Give yourself space, get silent, disconnect from social media, the world around you, and that's hard today. That's very hard. But what I would say is start to get clarity, right? Start to get clarity on what it is you want for your life, right? What does fulfillment look like for you? Where do you want to see yourself a year from now, 5 years from now? What does that ideal life look like? If you're on your deathbed at 97 years old and you're looking back, what are the most fulfilling things you think you're going to remember, right? Start to piece this together, right? Get clarity, number one. Number two, going back to that question, is thinking about what have you been avoiding, right? And again, you got to get silent for this. Get a pen and paper and think about what you've been avoiding, what you've been putting away. Maybe it's that relationship that you shouldn't be in, that is just sucking dry your energy and your life force, right? But to get to the next phase, to get that inner fulfillment, you realize that, oh shoot, now I have to deal with this relationship, right? There are sacrifices to living a fulfilling life, right? There are sacrifices to feeling the way that you're supposed to feel in this physical 3D experience here on Earth, right? And I'll tell you that feeling exhausted and stressed and just lifeless and not having inner fulfillment and hating what you do every day is not normal. It is not normal, and it doesn't need to be like that. It doesn't need to be like that. You can do whatever you want to do and have whatever you want to have. You can build the business you want to have. You can live where you want to live, but it's going to require, and please take note of this, and I'm looking at the time here, it's going to require the first step. When you're in the rut, right, and you're living a life, you've been going through the motions for so long, years, maybe decades, it is going to require, you got this cloud following you, right? It's hard to have faith in life, right? That's the hard thing about the rut phase. Just everything is harder in life, right? It's hard to have faith in life. Faith that God is going to get you to the next phase, right? It's hard to be connected to these spiritual, metaphysical things when you're just focused on what you can see. But what I would say is, what's the first step that you can take? What is the first step that you can take that shines bright to get out of this phase, this pattern of familiarity, this pattern of being comfortable, right? Coming out here, and I keep checking the time, by the way, because I don't want this to be more than 40 minutes. Coming out here was uncomfortable. Didn't look right logically, but it felt right on the inside, so I packed everything I could into the back of a Ford rental, and I came out here, and it was the best decision that I've ever made. It was the best decision I've ever made because that, again, I was in that rut phase before. I was still doing things, I was still making money, but that just inner fulfillment, satisfaction, that life force wasn't there, right? It was very surface oriented and very task oriented, right? Very to-do list oriented, not very intuitive, right? And so coming out here, and sometimes all you got to do is change your environment. The opportunity to come out here just moved me into this lifeline where I became a completely new person. I was able to come out here and be surrounded by new people, right? Back in Michigan, the opportunity wasn't there, right? The opportunity was out here. I was able to be surrounded by more like-minded people. I was able to get set up in a new living environment and just able to do all these different, we need to confront the elephant in the room here. If my words are sounding a little frazzled right now, I'm getting concerned about the time here because now I'm very aware of this is more than 30 minutes. Okay, so when I came out here, it opened up the floodgates, okay? I'm surrounded by new people. I'm connected to something greater. I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. It was this season of transition that made me a completely different person, right? Because now I got to match this new frequency that I'm now a part of, right? And coming in, getting connected to Hat Launch out here, though it might not fit on this invisible resume that I had on my mind, going and working for somebody again, whatever, I would say that it's very important to have the courage to reinvent yourself and do the things that might not look the greatest on paper, but if they feel right, if it feels right, if the opportunity feels right, it probably is. And please understand that. It probably is. Because coming out here put me into this energetic state of being, this high energy state, the state of flow, where it's like, now I feel like I can deal with all these things that I have shoved under the rug for so long. I've shoved under the rug, but now that first big step of just being honest with myself, right? You got to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest. Just being honest with myself. Again, that first step's always the hardest. You're not going to know how the path is going to unfold. It's going to illuminate as you walk it, right? But that first step opened these floodgates to now everything after. I don't know what it did. I still need to articulate it. Like, get a pen and paper. I'll just say this. I became a new person when I came out here, and the way I interact and the way I show up in the world feels more natural than anything I can recall in my lifetime. And I'm getting more clarity as far as what deeply fulfills me, what gives me energy, what takes me energy, right? That discovery phase and getting out of your comfort zone is so crucial to getting clarity and just greater awareness. The greater your awareness, the greater your quality of life. So, to end this video, because we're already at 35 minutes here, what I would say, if you're in a rut right now, it goes back to your inability to be present, right? You're just focused on all the things around you. You're focused on the future. You're focused on the past, right? I would say both. They're both connected. It's the lack of a connection to a higher purpose, right? You need that connection to a higher purpose. And to get that connection to a higher purpose, what I would suggest is getting into silence. Just go within. Every morning at 7:30 a.m., I go onto the rooftop at this apartment building I'm at. And for 45 minutes, I just think, I write, I listen to audiobooks. It's the 45 minutes of power, right? When I moved out here, I deleted my Instagram because I wanted to be able to reinvent myself without people, unwarranted opinions, and without just caring what anybody thinks, right? And I felt like Instagram could be a very negative influence. So I made the decision to delete the Instagram. I'm very glad I did. It was very rewarding, right? Because these things are not big, right? You can build a new Instagram, right? You can find new people in your life that are more fitting for the elevated state that you're in, right? There comes a time where you need to put yourself first. You need to focus on yourself and fill up your cup before you can help others, right? That's a common saying. So, what I would say to you, ask yourself the question, what have you been avoiding? Are you avoiding something? Right? Acknowledge it, right? Hello. Acknowledge it and figure out what the first step is that you can take to get out of your comfort zone, right? Something that shines bright, something that feels right, something that moves you toward your vision, right, of your life, something that moves you toward greater fulfillment. What's that first step that's going to elevate you in a way to where now you can start to deal with all these things that have been holding you down, right? Where you can tackle all these things, because you're never going to be able to do it in that rut state. You're never going to be able to do it in that rut state, right? You have to elevate. You have to make the conscious decision that I want to elevate, right? I want greater fulfillment. I want greater connection to life. I want greater presence in life. I want to be more present in life. What are we at? 38 minutes? It's going to require faith in God. But believe me when I say God will meet you halfway. God will meet you halfway. But you have to take the first step. You have to take the first step. And then the next step, and then the next step, and the next step, and the path will illuminate before you. Thanks, guys.